All right, I haven't discussed Journeyman for a while. I wanted to discuss this guy, and I've been trying to do a video on this guy and figured a way to do it. Because he was one of my favorite goalies at the time, definitely top 5, and yet he never got a break. He almost would get a break, and then, you know, it would just sort of fall apart again. He debuts in 87, 88, does Mr. Tugnutt. Plays 6 games, 2 wins, 3 losses, no ties, 3.41 goals against, and an 870 save percentage. So there's not a whole lot to look at there and say, this guy's going to be good. And nobody said much about him. At the time, Quebec was going through a lot of goalies. There was a lot of goalies going through Quebec. And you get 5 of this guy and 10 of that guy. And whether it was Milnikov or Tanner or... there was a bunch of them. And I'm trying to think of all of the goalies I was getting. I know I was collecting hockey cards a lot then because everybody was. And it's like, how many... Oh, Scott Gordon's another one. How many goalies does Quebec have? 88-89, he plays 26 games. He has a 10-10-3 record, 3.60 goals against, and an 892 save percentage. That's not bad. That's not bad on a team that's bad. And notice the outs. The outs mean he's on a team that misses the playoffs that year. Because I thought that was kind of a fun thing to look at. Because we discuss goalies and who the greatest are and who the greatest aren't. And if you're cheering for a team who's towards the bottom of the league, you're likely not going to hear your goalie get talked about as being one of the better goalies, even if he puts up great numbers. And Tugnutt wasn't necessarily putting up great numbers, but a 500 record for a team that wasn't 500 is kind of fun. But he won't be able to maintain that record. 89-90, he plays 35 games, 5 wins, 24 losses, 3 ties, 4.61 goals against, an 859 save percentage. As somebody who watched the Quebec Nordiques as much as I could that year, I felt awful for Ron Tugnutt. That team was awful. The Quebec Nordiques, that season, one of the worst teams to ever hit the ice. They were, and it was amazing because this was a team that within 5 years before that had the 3 Stastny brothers, had a pretty solid lineup from top to bottom, and then the bottom just falls out. It's just gone. And you're left with goalies just getting teed off on. So his stats were awful, and the team in front of him was terrible. And I felt bad for him. 90-91, plays 56 games, 12 wins, 29 losses, 10 ties, 4.05 goals against, 885 save percentage. Notice they're still not in the playoffs. I believe this is the year that Tugnutt had 70 saves on 73 shots in a tie at Boston Garden and got a standing ovation from the Boston faithful at the end of the night. Boston's not known for being particularly warm and fuzzy to players of the opposing team. And the fact that you could tell they kind of felt bad for this kid playing in front of this team. And not only that, but, you know, the Quebec Nordiques are nowhere near the playoffs. And him out there playing his heart out, well, that was the night that I became a huge fan of his. And I'd followed him and I'd felt bad for him, but at that point I'm like, you know what? He's actually a really good goaltender. He just doesn't get any support. 91-92, 30 games played, 6 wins, 17 losses, 3 ties, 4.02 goals against, 864 save percentage, and Quebec pulls the plug. March 10th of 1982, they trade him with Brad Zawisza to Edmonton for Martin Rucinski. And Rucinski kind of plays a key role in another trade that'll take place later on. But Tugnutt goes to Edmonton, plays 3 games, a 1-1 record, 4.83 goals against, 863 save percentage. He gets into 2 playoff games just as a fill-in. And yeah, that's where we end up with Tugnutt, and it's too bad. That it almost felt like he was so broken after this he couldn't recover in Edmonton. 92-93, he plays 26 games for the Oilers, 9 wins, 12 losses, 2 ties, 4.17 goals against, 879 save percentage. And the Oilers missed the playoffs. I will be the first to admit this is not a banner season for Ron Tugnutt. But that's why he's a journeyman and not a Hall of Famer. It was not a banner season for him, and yet, because he'd already shown in Quebec that he can play well for bad teams, the Anaheim Ducks, who don't have a lot of goalies to choose, remember, teams can protect 2 goalies, they choose Tugnutt in the expansion draft. Ron Tugnutt rewards the Anaheim Ducks with 28 games played, 10 wins, 15 losses, 1 tie, a 3.00 goals against, 908 save percentage. So very good save percentage considering he's behind an expansion team, and it's the best save percentage he's put up. So what do they do? February 20th of 1994, they traded him to Montreal for Stéphane Lebeau. So Tugnutt is off to Montreal. He plays 8 games, 2-3-1 record, 3.81 goals against, 860 save percentage. He only gets into 1 playoff game. He is a backup. Let's be clear, he is a backup for the most part in his career. 94-95, he plays 7 games in total, a 1-3-1 record, 3.12 goals against, 895 save percentage. This is where his career is basically over. 94-95. This doesn't happen if he's a guy who's willing to just say, all right, well, I'm done. But goalies, there's a lot of resurrection stories with goaltenders, and this is one of them. He is signed September 25th, 1995 as an unrestricted free agent by the Washington Capitals. Now, the Capitals are darn good at figuring out which goalies are going to make it, and this is it's not a good sign. He plays the entire season with Portland, the Portland Pirates. 21 wins, 23 losses, 6 ties, 3.34 goals against, 898 save percentage, and gets into 13 playoff games for them. So he plays the entire season in the minors. And what happens the year after? August 14th, 1996, he is signed as an unrestricted free agent by the Ottawa Senators. 96-97, he rewards the Senators for picking him up with a 17-15-1 record in 37 games. 2.80 goals against and an 895 save percentage. You can see that goals against are coming down league-wide. His save percentage isn't up that much for his goals against to be down below 3. So he's behind a better team in Ottawa, gets into 7 playoff games, and posts a goals against average below 2 in that 7-game series. Showing that, again, with a good team in front of him and big games, he's a big game goalie. 97-98. Bit of a wobble for him here. He's 15-14-8 in 42 games, 2.25 goals against, 905 save percentage. He only gets into 2 playoff games. Numbers aren't great in those playoff games. I'm going to be completely honest. If I'm going to give him credit for the 97 playoffs, I've got to mention in 98, it didn't work out as well. 99, he plays 43 games, 22-10-8 record, 1.79 goals against, which leads the league that year, 925 save percentage, gets into 2 playoff games, and again, his playoff numbers aren't fantastic. So where that leads you is this. Ottawa looks at him and goes, all right, he's a good goaltender. He's getting us good numbers, but we're not getting anywhere in the playoffs. We need a goaltender who can get us somewhere in the playoffs. 99-2000, 44 games played, 18-12-8 record for the Senators, 2.54 goals against, 899 save percentage, and he's traded to the Penguins. With Jani Laukkanen for Tom Barrasso. Makes total sense from an Ottawa perspective to get Barrasso, a goalie with a couple of Stanley Cup rings, but Barrasso's past his prime. And Tugnutt goes to Pittsburgh, posts a 4-2 record in 7 games, 2.40 goals against, 924 save percentage, plays 11 playoff games, and again posts a goals against average of below 2. And Pittsburgh gets into the second round with Tugnutt as their goaltender. So, again, as a Tugnutt fan, I'm not a Pittsburgh fan, but I'm a huge Ron Tugnutt fan. So, seeing Tugnutt get into the second round, I'm all excited. I'm like, yes, this is, finally, he is showing that, wait, what? Pittsburgh doesn't keep him. July 4th of 2000, he is a UFA again. He goes to Columbus. Isn't that wonderful? He's finally had a run where he's on teams that are in the playoffs. And now, back to expansion. No complaints. He plays 53 games in Columbus, 22-25-3 record, 2.44 goals against, 917 save percentage for a team that's out of the playoffs. And that's why I'm wearing Columbus gear for this video. Because the most impressive part to me is that at no point does he show signs he's going to quit. Even though he's not playing a ton of hockey, he is still putting up excellent numbers. And not getting discouraged when he's not necessarily playing more than he might want to, when he's not playing at all, and when he's very sporadically getting into the lineup. At no point during any of this do you hear any complaints about Tugnutt. from Tugnutt, nothing. There's no complaints. 2001, 2002, he plays 44 games, 12 wins, 27 losses, 3 overtime losses, or ties. I think that's just ties. I don't know. Could be both. 2.85 goals against, 900 save percentage, and out of the playoffs. Then he's traded to Dallas with a second-round pick for a first-round pick that becomes Daniel Paille. Of course, he's drafted by Buffalo, so that pick gets laundered. Not a fantastic record, though, for him in Dallas. He's brought in as a backup, plays 31 games, 15-10-5 record, 2.47 goals against, 896 save percentage. He doesn't get to play any playoff games that year, though Dallas makes the playoffs. 03-04, his last season in the NHL. He plays 11 games, 3-7, 2.41 goals against, 900 save percentage. So good numbers despite the fact that he's got a bad win-loss record. And what it adds up to is he plays 538 games in his career, 186 wins, 239 losses, 62 ties, 3.05 goals against, 895 save percentage for his career. Plays a grand total of 25 playoff games, has a record of 9-13 in the playoffs. 6 of those 9 wins are right here. And 8 times he plays on a team that misses the playoffs out of 16 seasons in the game. So when you're talking about goaltenders who maybe if they'd been drafted by a better team, maybe if they played for a better team, maybe they would have played longer, maybe they would have been thought about more, maybe they could end up with 300 wins, this is the guy. This is the guy. This is why going into this season I'm talking about like, well, you know, Robin Lehner's not that bad. Because, again, Lehner and Buffalo last year played behind a pretty crappy team. And I think back to guys like Tugnutt that play behind teams that aren't necessarily the best, end up missing the playoffs, and it hurts their numbers. And then when they get a chance to play on a team that's pretty darn good, they put up some pretty darn good numbers. So there you go. The journeyman for today is Ron Tugnutt. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And since he played for 8 teams and was owned by 9, to me, that's the definition of a journeyman. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.